On Tuesday night, Syracuse had every opportunity for a season-altering victory. The Orange were up 2 with 21 seconds remaining. Then, disaster struck. A 6-0 North Carolina run and a stunning defeat for the Orange. It brings the season to a turning point. It's now or never for SU. Coming up, we've got everything you need to know about Syracuse and Virginia Tech. Cuse Countdown starts right now. Welcome inside the CitrusTV studio. Cuse Countdown all the way back. Chloe Smarz, Ian Nicholas, and Jacob Morris with you talking Syracuse and Virginia Tech round number 2. Chloe, round number 1. Syracuse took 82-72 on the back of a 20-4 run to start the second half. It ended up being a pretty comfortable win for the Orange.
Yeah, and there's two things that I looked at here for Syracuse, and they were two freshmen not named Judah Mintz. I looked at one being Malik Brown. He had his first career collegiate double-double in that game. He solidified himself as a great forward for the Syracuse team. Also, though, Justin Taylor dropped 8 points in that first half. They both have hit their stride since this game. Additionally, though, Orange got lucky. No Hunter Couture for this game as well. It created less problems for Syracuse without having a solid defender. Syracuse had their lead guy. JG3 dropped 24 points in that game, and Virginia Tech could not connect from deep.
They couldn't. I mean, you forced guys like Justin Mutz and Grant Basile, who played great into different roles. I mean, Justin Mutz, I love this guy. He did everything he could to try to win this game for the Hokies. He's got 20 assists in his 2 previous games against Syracuse. And Basile, look, he's kind of boring how he plays. He finishes everything inside with touch and finesse. He can hit the 3, but 26 points against the Orange. They're going to have to watch out for him this time.
Oh, big time. Multiple guys Syracuse has to watch out for. That game, though, was the 4th straight loss for Virginia Tech. And it really, the Hokies would then lose their next 2 before finally getting back in the win column against Duke earlier this week. Then to the matchup with SU on a bit of a high note. Folks, Syracuse not in the same boat. The Orange fell 72-68 to North Carolina. Plain and simple, one of the toughest losses for SU fans to stomach in recent memory. Up to 21 seconds to go, Syracuse collapsed. 6 consecutive points to the Tar Heels to finish the game. Ultimately a wasted opportunity for those counting at home. Pull out the pen and pad. That's 2 blown second half leads in quad 1 and 2 opportunities when you factor in the loss to Miami. Ultimately, SU 2-2 since the last matchup with the Hokies. And Ian, the Carolina game really a microcosm of the season. Positive flashes for Syracuse, but ultimately a whole lot of missed opportunities.
Whole lot of missed opportunities down the stretch. Whether it was Joe Girard committing the cardinal sin of tipping the ball back in play under your own opponent's hoop, or Judah Mintz just running straight into R.J. Davis's face, looking like Scott Sterling. He was the soccer ball, and Scott Sterling, well, that was R.J. Davis. But look, I think there were a lot of positives from this game. I think we knew from the beginning of the year this wasn't a tournament team. But to see the young guys, especially Chris Bell, with 15 points, 4 boards, and a career-high 36 minutes, he wasn't the best player out there, but he looked a lot better than normal, Chloe, and for a 4-star recruit, you'll love to see it.
Yeah, but also, Ian, when was the last time a Syracuse team out-rebounded a Tar Heels team and they didn't come out with the win? What I'm trying to say here is that Syracuse actually played a really good game, besides that last maybe minute of the game. But besides that, though, Syracuse really showed their youth in that last few seconds of the game, especially with Judah Mintz, Joe Girard, like you were talking about. There's clear issues for Syracuse. Armando Bacot came out at the end of the game and he said, and I quote, "They deserved to win that game. We got lucky at the end." That's exactly what happened for Syracuse. It's not a great loss for them.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal, and that type of quote to hear from Bacot, pretty heartbreaking if you're a Syracuse fan. But hey, let's delve further into the loss. Chris Bell, like you guys mentioned, a bright spot for SU. Ian, the freshman, was nowhere to be found the previous 2 games, but he comes out against the Tar Heels, 15 points, 3 of 5 from behind the arc. He was real good for the Orange.
He was real good, but I don't even care what he did shooting the basketball because, look, every time Chris Bell does something good for this team, what does Coach Boeheim say? He says, yeah, I know he can shoot the ball, but what else does he do for me? I'm not going to lie. Early in the game, he had a tip-in off a Joe Girard miss. I thought it was Malik Brown. I'm like, oh, Malik Brown doing what he does under the hoop. Wait, that's Chris Bell getting a rebound and scoring in the paint? And then also, he does his stuff in transition. Yes, sometimes he's a little lazy in transition, but did you see that dunk he had on that Judah Mintz feed? big-time bucket early in the second half. Big-time plays from Bell, both in that game against UNC and against Notre Dame. He's turning a corner.
Yeah, there's a big concern, though, Ian, because we saw this in the Notre Dame game. Chris Bell had a great game, and then you know what he did after that?
Nothing.
Nothing. He fizzled out. And that's my biggest concern for Chris Bell, because down the stretch, you're going to face some good teams. Virginia, Clemson, even a Pitt team at Pitt. You have to be able to duplicate what you did yesterday, and I don't think he's going to be able to do that. I don't have faith in. Do you have faith in Chris Bell?
I have a little bit of faith.
Okay,
I really do.
I don't. And Jim Boeheim is looking for that gem, and I don't think Chris Bell is that.
Well,
All right.
Keeper Davis was praising him.
It's true. Complete pessimism from Chloe there.
Sorry.
But you're right. Consistency has to be a priority for the freshman. Somebody who's been pretty darn consistent. Well, it's Joe Girard III. He wasn't the issue for the Orange, at least until the last 20 seconds. Put up a whole lot of points. But Chloe struggled down the end. Up and down performance, but he's been fantastic offensively.
Yeah, he put up solid numbers, to 18 points to be exact, but he didn't do everything right. He had
More negativity. All
Sorry,
right.
sorry to be a Debbie Downer here, but he had 6 turnovers in the game. He is your senior leader. This is a young team. He's supposed to lead you to win these games, but also, though, he had what I like to call a few logo Joes, where he blew a few possessions, wasted them for a UNC team that was able to capitalize on these missed opportunities. Obviously, this team is nothing without Joe Girard. He is their leader as a senior guard, but he's also should allow that experience, pass it to the younger guys so that they can succeed in the last few seconds of that game.
Yeah, but here's the thing. In the last few seconds of that game, the younger guys didn't show up, especially in the first half, Chloe. He had 12 points in half number 1, just as many as that Armando Bacot guy. So look, I'm not saying Joe Girard is as impactful a player as Mr. Bacot, but what I am saying is it's time to respect Joe Girard. I know the logo Joe shots are crazy, but he made 4 of them. And if he didn't make some of them in the first half, this game would have been over after 20 minutes.
Exactly right. He's been fantastic offensively. 15-plus points in now 13 of the last 14 games for Joe. That's pretty darn good. But how about his backcourt mate? Let's talk Judah Mintz. When you look at the box score, 17 points looks great for Mintz, but you look a little further. Ian, 7 of 18 shooting, 4 turnovers and fouling out, plus that last play, maybe not so much, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, Boeheim after the game tried to say, Jacob, that he had no other choice. They pressed, he had to go to the hoop, he's pretty fast, and, you know, that elbow hit RJ Davis pretty fast. I've already talked about it. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. But at the end of the day, that's now 2 of the last 3 games where the game has come down to Judah Mintz, and he hasn't gotten the job done, Chloe. So, look, I really want the ball in his hands because he is the best shot creator on this team at getting to the hoop and finishing through contact, but still, he was in complete denial after the game. He thought he wasn't in charge, but it was pretty clear. All forearm, all nose of RJ Davis.
Yeah, I question if Judah thinks that the moment is too big for him.
Wow,
He's been playing a little bit too much hero ball. We saw it in the U-Miami game. History should not be repeating himself. It happened again, though, against UNC last night. He needs to be efficient. He needs to be more mature in the game of basketball. He hasn't done that. I'm not trusting Judah Mintz with my last shot to win a game from what I've been seeing from him from the U-Miami game and from the game against UNC as well.
Got to go with Logo Joe instead,
yeah, Logo
I guess.
Joe, I guess.
All negatives on the freshman, at least, from Chloe.
Yeah.
But it's time for our first break here on Cuse Countdown. We've talked Orange. When we come back, we'll talk the Hokies. We're meeting Mike Young as well as the cast of characters in Blacksburg. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Did you hear about the pony with a sore throat? He was a little horse. Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding. Why couldn't the Why was the basketball court all wet? Why? Because the players kept dribbling all over it. Where do cats go on vacation? New York.
Welcome back inside the CitrusTV studio. Cuse Countdown is back. I'm Jacob Morris, joined by Chloe Smarz and Ian Nicholas. Before the break, we talked Syracuse. Now it's time to flip over. We're talking Virginia Tech. And for the Hokies, it's been a tale of two seasons. Chloe, Virginia Tech starts 12-1, and then you rattle off 7 straight losses. Virginia Tech got as high as 19 in the top 25 before barreling down. Did pick up a win against Duke, but it has been a struggle at times for Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I would say maybe Virginia Tech is one of the most unlucky teams in college basketball. Again, 7 straight losses by 10 points or less after they started out 12-1. I mean, you have to also have the fact that they had some pretty big injuries. Hunter Couture, we talked about before, he is their biggest guy on both sides of the cylinder of the basketball. But also, the problem came down, I think the Hokies were trying to take too many threes. They weren't trying to set up a good play for them. They were forcing the shots. That didn't help Virginia Tech on offense, and that's why they were shooting from 27% from beyond the arc. You're not going to win games with that number.
100%. I mean, this team's identity is shooting the 3-ball. When they made that deep run of the ACC tournament a year ago, they were living with the 3-ball. With Couture, with guys who looked like Padula that weren't Padula. He's been awesome this season. But at the end of the day, when Couture isn't in that lineup, and we're going to talk more about him later, but when he isn't in that lineup, it forces everybody to really move in the spots where they don't fit. It forces Darius Maddox to move to the 2 where he's not as good. And it forces other guys just to move in the spots where they're not as effective. And that's why loss after loss came. And the schedule was really tough in that stretch.
Tough schedule is exactly right. But Ian, like you said, now that injuries are a little bit out of the way for Virginia Tech, the Hokies starting to look a little bit more like the team they were, at least. They got back in the win column on Monday with a victory over Duke at home. And Ian, it was the team's first victory in over a month. It was much needed, and it was emphatic towards the end as well.
Oh, it was unbelievable. I mean, that was blow for blow. And I get it. Duke is no longer the Duke of old. They've got Kyle Filipowski, and really that's about it.
All right.
But at the end of the day, it's still Duke, so it's got to feel really good that you had Couture back, you had Sean Padula giving you 16, you had Justin Mutz doing his thing, and you had your nice Wright State transfer. There he is in the corner, Mr. Basile, draining those 3 shots. So, Chloe, they looked really good, and I think that honestly the committee's going to realize, look, Couture wasn't in the lineup, but when he is, this is a tournament team, and I think they just have to take care of business from here on out.
Yeah, that was Basile's arguably one of his best performances in a Hokie jersey, though. But fortunately, though, for the Hokies, they did go through a little bit of a second-half scoring drought, but they were able to pick it up on defense and hold the Devils to arm's length. A few missed shots by the Blue Devils, and that allowed for Virginia Tech to get that win, a big win for them as well.
Big time again when you consider just how long the losing streak got extended to. But now let's talk about the man in charge of it all, Mike Young. After 30 years, that's right, as an assistant and head coach at Wofford, Young came back to Blacksburg in 2019. Chloe, it's been a bit of an up and down experience with Mike Young, but he got that ACC championship just a season ago.
I feel like he's actually done a great job, Jacob, to counter what you're saying.
That's fine.
I mean, in his first season with the Hokies, he did nothing but succeed. He had 16 wins. That made him the winningest first-year head coach since 1999. He was the 2021 ACC Coach of the Year, defeated number 3 Villanova in that season as well. He also followed that in 2022, led the team to the first ever, again, men's ACC championship. And that was no easy task. 4 wins in 4 days down in Brooklyn. He also led them to the NCAA tournament with a team shot 39% behind the arc. That was 3rd best in the nation.
Look, I instantly gained respect for this guy, Chloe, when he brought Wofford to the tournament multiple times, and he's done it in his first 2 full seasons with Virginia Tech. At the end of the day, not only is he a really solid coach who sticks to his guns, but he's a solid recruiter. Unfortunately, one of our best guys has been out for the majority of the year, a freshman who hasn't been able to get on the floor because of multiple injuries, but he can recruit, he can coach, he can do it all for a solid program.
Highly effective in 4 years as well.
He's been impressive, and one of the mainstays in the Young era has been, well, speaking of Wofford, Hunter Couture. A first-team All-ACC member and the ACC tournament MVP a season ago, the senior was committed to Wofford, but then came with Young to Blacksburg in 2019 when he flipped his commitment. Ian, the guard missed 4 games, including the loss to Syracuse, but we've talked about it. Now that he's back, he makes this Virginia Tech team completely different.
Jacob, this is a completely different Tech squad with Couture in the lineup. 0-4 without him, 12-4 with him. His shooting is just that valuable.
Yeah, he's great on offense and he's great on defense because he could shoot the three and defend a three. It's why Virginia Tech needed him in this lineup during their really long losing streak, Ian.
That losing streak finally ended on Monday against Duke, a team Couture knows well. Dropped 31 points on them when he was named the ACC Tournament MVP a season ago. He only had 15 in this game, but his last three, extremely valuable. Tied game, 7 minutes to go. Why not go to Grant Basile? He's setting a down screen for Coach Mike Young here. Well, here's why, Chloe. It's because Couture was 5 for 10 from 3 in this game. He's shooting 41% from deep since coming back from a forearm injury. He was able to put the Hokies up in that situation, but he wasn't done making plays.
Yeah, exactly, Ian. You talked about him on offense. Defensively, though, Couture, when he went out with injury, there was a big hole for this Virginia Tech team. His replacement, Darius Maddox, could not even compete for what he was able to do before his injury for this Virginia Tech team. Mike Young has talked about it. He's great defensively because he has some great footwork. He's also just a really smart player, and we saw it to the corner. It solidifies the win for Virginia Tech. It's plays like this that aren't going to be in the box score that you really need to look at for Couture's impact to this game, because he's just really good and does everything right because he is that smart player.
He's just a glue guy. I mean, he averages under 10 points a game, but there's a reason they were able to beat Duke with him in the lineup. There's plenty of other guys, though, Jacob, that make plays for this Hokie squad.
Ian, you are exactly right. And hey, why not? Let's meet the running mates. We begin with Grant Basile. Chloe, the Wright State transfer was a menace against Syracuse, dropping 26 points and 10 rebounds. The Orange couldn't stop him.
Yeah, he's just a solid player on both sides of the basketball. He's decent rebounding. He's a solid shot blocker. Offensively, though, he's second on the team in points. He still needs to improve, though, that he can compete against more athletic competition coming from a smaller conference. But nevertheless, he's an overall great addition for the Hokies. We saw it against Duke, put up 24 points.
I mean, Chloe, I feel like I'm watching Tim Duncan out here. It's just Mr. Fundamental. One dribble, two dribble. No dribbles. Put it up from the elbow. This is what he does, and he makes it look easy, Jacob.
Big time. And Basile's front court running mate, Justin Mutz. Ian, he had himself a heck of a game against Syracuse. Is pretty darn good against Duke as well.
Oh, this guy does it all. At 6'7", he's been in college basketball probably when I was in middle school. He's been here forever, and he does everything. Run the floor, pass, and from the free throw line in the middle of his zone, Chloe, he makes great decisions. He does so much for Mike Young's crew offensively.
Yeah. Ian, you can also switch around and defend all 5 positions at the college level. That's really big. He ranks 8th in the ACC in rebounds per game. Offensively, though, he's able to shoot 57% on pick and roll sets. That's something that you don't really look at from a guy that's very defensive based. He's a great player, though, for Virginia Tech.
Speaking of shooting, we wrap up with Sean Padula. Chloe leads the Hokies at 16 points per game, all the more impressive considering he averaged only 5 a game just a season ago.
Yeah, exactly, but he's getting more minutes, which I think is contributing to that as well. He ranks 11th in the ACC in scoring. He's shooting 41.9% from three. That's a really big number, and he's the biggest scoring threat, especially from the outside for Virginia Tech. Handles the ball well, and he can score consistently off the dribble.
The great thing I love about Sean Padula is even when his shot isn't going for him, he was only 2 of 11 from 3 in his last game against Syracuse. He's getting rebounds, he's getting assists, he plays defense. All the things that Joe Girard doesn't really do and why people hate on him. When Padula isn't scoring, Jacob, he's doing other things that help this team win ball games.
Aside from Sean Padula and Joe Girard impressions, it's time for another break here on Cuse Countdown. You don't want to go anywhere. When we come back, we play Countdown Classroom. School's in session. We're going to hand out some grades. Don't go anywhere. Cuse Countdown. Back right after this.
They call me Maxie, but I prefer tripod. I was your above-average four-legged homie, and then wham, bam, minivan. Some people pity me. Now that's lame. I still run, fetch, and swim. And the ladies love me. I'm the ultimate wingman. Just don't ask me to high five.
Welcome back to Cuse Countdown. Jacob Morris, Chloe Smarz, and Ian Nicholas with you breaking down Syracuse and Virginia Tech. Now it's time to have some fun. We're entering the countdown classroom. That's because we're going to hand out some grades to Syracuse basketball related subjects. Chloe, we begin with the freshman class. It was all the talk coming into this year. 6 different freshmen coming in. The biggest for Jim Boeheim in a whole long while. If you're giving them a grade, what's the mark?
Professor Morris, I'm going to give them an A-.
Positive.
Positive, yeah.
Finally.
Sorry, I know I've been a really Debbie Downer this whole show today, but I think also because they are young, and people in the beginning of the season, we didn't really know what to expect from them. We all knew Judah Mintz was the real deal, and he has been for the most part of the season. But also, I think Justin Taylor has been a great addition off the bench. Same thing with Malik Brown. He solidified himself as a great forward for this team. They also, when I watched Cuse during the final 12 minutes of that Notre Dame game, I know they're not the best team. They outscored that team 31-14 with 4 freshmen in the orange lineup. You know what that was, Jacob? Beautiful, exciting to watch. I have very big hopes for this freshman team. Maybe not this year, but maybe next year. I think they can be more experienced, Ian.
I agree. I mean, look, you said it was beautiful. I'd say it was unprecedented. Jim Boeheim, after the game, said, I've never had 4 freshmen on the floor when it wasn't garbage time. And in such a big win against Notre Dame at home in the ACC for the sweep, we saw Chris Bell shine. We saw Justin Taylor step up when Joe Girard smacked his head on the hardwood, and it looked awful. But Taylor looked great. And also, you said Mintz was a real deal, but honestly, I didn't know how good the guy was going to be. He's one of the best freshmen in the country.
Impressive freshman class so far. For Syracuse, we'll say that's a positive, folks. We're going to now talk Benny Williams, and something tells me, Ian, we're going to be a little bit less positive on this one.
I know I gave a B+ earlier because the freshmen were giving me apples and doing extra credit, but now we're going C+ for Benny Williams. And honestly, I didn't have super high expectations for him at the beginning of the year, Chloe, but he's shown us he can do great things. And then he's also shown us he can't rebound the basketball. There's just, Benny Williams thinks he's really good at shooting jumpers, and he's gotten a lot better than last year, but that's not where he needs to be. He's got the hops and the vision to get to the basket, catch lobs, and be a great cutter and finisher. He needs to do more rebounding and scoring inside, and that's why he hasn't shown up to my classes enough. He hasn't learned the lessons, and he isn't getting a B.
Well, he's getting a D.
Wow.
He shouldn't even be starting in the lineup, if we're being honest. He hasn't done anything right. I mean, against UNC, he was pulled out of the starting lineup 2 minutes into the game and was replaced by Malik Brown, who's just a better player than him, clean and simple. I also think Benny Williams, though, he needs to figure it out. I mean, it's been, what, 22 games now that they've played? He still cannot figure out how to be confident on offense and on defense. It's been hurting the Syracuse team. He's almost close to failing my class, Jacob.
I was going to say, with those marks, Benny Williams' GPA is plummeting right now.
Teacher conference time.
In terms of, for Syracuse right now. But for the last one, Chloe, I'll come back to you. Pull out the pen and pad. This is the most important grade. We're talking Jesse Edwards, the man in the middle. What are you giving him?
I'll give him a solid B+.
Okay.
Not bad, not good. I think he was great in the beginning of the season. He put up, like, what, 22 points in one game? Yeah. But after that, Jacob, what has he really done? Sure, defensively, he's been great. I mean, second in the ACC in rebounds, first in the ACC in blocks.
That sounds pretty good, no?
All great stat line. But besides the fact that when he doesn't know how to not get fouled. Syracuse 0-4 when he fouls out of the game. I think he has the ability to be a great player. That's why I'm giving him a B+ for his defensive side. I think he just could be better on offense later in the season. He's a big dude, Ian.
He is a big dude.
Use him more at the rim. Don't you agree? Or what are you giving the grade here?
I don't agree with the fact that you said B+ isn't a good grade.
That was pretty crazy.
I mean, where are you teaching? Harvard?
Sorry.
I mean, it's unbelievable. Apologize to Jesse. Don't apologize to me because I'm giving him an A. Yeah, he ran into the valedictorian against UNC and Armando Bacot. You're going to foul out when you play him. And honestly, I thought that he really limited Bacot well. Overall, 25 points against Miami just a few games ago shows you what he does as a guy who finishes off the pick and roll. He's gotten so much better as a rebounder, top 10 in the country in that regard. He's still swatting shots. He's still getting A's for me.
Hey, congrats to Jesse Edwards, top of the class. Maybe he should tutor Benny Williams, we'll say. Help him out in the academic department. Unfortunately, it's time for our last break here on Cuse Countdown. When we come back, we go around the ACC and we take a look at what's coming up for the Orange. Don't go anywhere. CC wraps up after this.
They said a bottle was just a bottle. That no one would ever notice me. But I knew I could be more. That one day, I would make people smile.
Welcome back inside the CitrusTV studio. Cuse Countdown wrapping up shop here. Jacob Morris, Chloe Smarz, and Ian Nicholas doing so. Syracuse and Virginia Tech coming up this weekend. And for now, we take a look around the ACC. The standings at about the midway point in the season. Not what you'd expect. Clemson. Yes, that's Clemson, who was picked to finish 11th in the conference preseason. Topping the standings, as you see right there. Chloe, what stands out when you look at the conference as a whole?
It has to be Clemson. I mean, I know this is basketball, but you would expect this to be a football standings right here. But also, though, UNC and Duke, not really where they normally are, like the 1-2 punch of the ACC. I think, though, this conference does run through Virginia. They're the #1 ranked defense in the ACC. They're also the #1 ranked three-point shooting team. But they did lose to a Miami team who's been pretty solid throughout the season. But so many teams, Ian, have 7 and 6 wins. So it's kind of either underwhelming, kind of boring, yet competitive. I don't know. It's a really weird ACC standing in this part of this year overall.
You can look at it two ways, Chloe. Either the ACC is stacked or these teams all stink and they're beating down on each other. And I'm taking the latter. 4 of those teams with 3 losses, 3 of them with 4. Yep, that's quick math out of me. But I agree with you. Virginia's going to win this thing when it's all said and done.
Virginia has a pretty darn good squad in Charlottesville. Already took care of Syracuse once. But you said it, perhaps the ACC having a bit of a down year, and that's part of the reason why Syracuse has a really tough road ahead of it to make the NCAA tournament. Ian, there's opportunities left on the schedule, but Syracuse almost has to be perfect at this point, right?
Look, I've already done a lot of math, Jacob. I'll do a little more
Calculate the
for you.
numbers. Crunch it for me.
Here are the numbers that I've crunched. I've looked at this schedule, and I'd say there's roughly 6 chances, 6 opportunities to
That's
get a
a
quad
lot,
1,
right?
quad 2 win.
That is a lot.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of those wins right now. They could have snagged 2 of them against Miami and UNC, and they decide either to blow a lead or to come back and, well, not take the lead for good. So they've got to win roughly 4 of those games, in my opinion, 4 out of those 6, to give themselves an outside shot to make the tournament. And this team's just too young. We talked about it in the classroom. They're underclassmen, and they're not experienced enough to get those big wins and to get themselves deep in the march.
Yeah, what really is the likelihood that they can beat a team like Virginia, Clemson, Pitt? Slim to none. I think their hopes for the NCAA tournament are very slim. Maybe they make a run in the ACC tournament. Who knows? It depends how they play late in February. But yeah, Ian, you've really covered it all. I think there's little to no hope for the Syracuse team down the line.
More negativity from Chloe,
sorry.
who could have possibly guessed in that regard. But you're right, Syracuse, not a lot of opportunities left in front of it, and has to be pretty darn good when they come up. And one of those, I guess you would say, comes against Virginia Tech. Chloe, I'll come to you first. The Orange, a quad 1 opportunity on the road in Blacksburg against the Hokies. Does Syracuse get it done? Do they boost the resume?
I don't want to be more negative here,
go
Jacob.
ahead. Give it to me.
But you got to stay on brand.
Got to stay on brand. I'm going to take Virginia Tech here at home 73-69. I just looked at how Hunter Couture and company played at the end of that Duke game with confidence, and they were mature, and they were composed. They were so good in that game, no matter how the panic situation was. And then you look at Syracuse, who in that game against UNC fell apart. They have a senior team for Virginia Tech. It's a home game. I'm going to take the Hokies in this one.
All right.
I'm going to take them too, 76-70. I think it's close, but on the road in a raucous environment, it's going to be really tough. And especially for a Virginia Tech team that's shooting over 40% from distance in those last 3 games against the 2-3 zone. Everybody on that squad, Mike Young, Hunter Tator, you name it, they should all be licking their chops. I can't even speak right now. It's going to match up, and Jacob, it's going to be really tough for the Oilers.
Ian, I think you made the key point there also when looking at Syracuse and Virginia Tech in round 2. Round 1 in Syracuse, round 2 in Blacksburg, where the Hokies are 9-2 currently. But that's all the time we have on this edition of Cuse Countdown. Chloe Smarz and Ian Nicholas and Jacob Morris saying so long.